Well, hi, friend.
Hi,
How are you?
living the dream.
Good. So, my name is Amanda Price. If we haven't met before, I am the team leader and president at Keller Williams Innovate in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we serve the Greater Coast from Jacksonville down to Myrtle Beach. And we are really privileged today because we have a longtime friend and what I would call very smart guy in the house today, and he taught for us Path to Profit. And I said, let's get together and hop in the room and talk about, for those who weren't there today, what were some of the highlights that we know that people might be either A, overlooking, and or B, might not know that is interfering with their profit potential. So Kyle, thank you for being here. Do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself first?
Yeah, sure. No, I appreciate having me. Thank you very much. Coming in from Salt Lake, so they brought me in to talk about money, profit, wealth, etc. My name is Kyle Harrison. I am a KW Maps executive coach, which is the coaching company for Keller Williams. I've had just a little over 8,000 coaching calls, and my coaching niche is leadership, team building, financials, and wealth building. So I help agents go from we do it to they do it, right? You get in the business, it's I do it, then we do it, and then they do it. So I really coach and help agents get from we do it to they do it. And a lot of that has to do around profit and financials and really setting their business up in a way that if they really want to step away from the business, they can financially. And we track all that. So that's really me in a nutshell. So
I love that. So you spent the first part of the class talking about the same you organized it in the same way that Gary organized the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. And I don't think there is any, chance in the reason behind that. And you started with what?
Mindset.
Okay. Why?
100%. There's a bold law that we call it at Keller Williams called be, do, achieve. And if you're successful in the business, you know how to do the things to achieve the things that you want. Very rarely do people actually slow down and become. And when you get into financials and wealth, and I've seen a lot of P&Ls throughout the years, it's really getting them to understand what's their relationship with money, and it really starts there. I mean, you really got to start to look internally, look in the mirror. Were you raised poor? Were you raised wealthy? Like, what is the true being of how you view money? And is it a great thing for you? Is it a bad thing? Is it a scary thing? Like, there's just a lot of emotions that come along with money, and money is good for the good it can do, right? And so if you're wanting to get better in the financial, it all starts with your mindset. And we spent the first 40 minutes of the 2 hours just talking about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really important. If you want to get better at that, it really starts with the internal side of things. So mindset's absolutely important. And once you get into mindset and start to understand it, then you can start to move on to the do and the achieve and accomplish whatever you want. So it's super important.
Yeah, we talk about this, and as a team leader for the number of years we've been in it. I mean, I know for a fact that there are a lot of mega agents that have billboards, and they're on the stages, and they talk a lot about volume. But why does volume really not matter? I mean, what's it really about? And so, what's the advice that you have around that?
Well, volume's the easiest thing to track. Transactions are the easiest things to track, and it's really about profitability. If you want to grow your money, you got to know your money. And I've seen, again, lots of P&Ls. I coach some of the best agents out there, and you'd be surprised how many people are making a ton of money. And a lot of that shows up as their ego. And the biggest expense in a profit and loss is ego. And so they should be tracking profitability, because it doesn't matter what you make, it matters what you keep. Yeah. And if you're not tracking what you actually keep, you could potentially go out of business. And I'll give you a prime example. I shared the example earlier. You had an agent that was making $800,000 in GCI. They actually had to get a second job to pay their mortgage. And why? Because they didn't track their profitability. They didn't track their cost of sale. They just ran the business willy-nilly. They had no idea. They saw the money coming in. They didn't understand the money that was going out. And they almost went broke. And luckily they turned it around, and now they're very profitable. So
You shared one exercise in the class. I think you called it a freeze.
yeah, spending freeze exercise. That's been the most amazing. I see people that are really good at P&L and really good at their finances. However, the majority of agents and really business owners just don't understand that. The top 5 reasons why businesses fail is because of financials. I mean, it's just the top 3 of the 5 are because of financials. And so, I mean, it's just, what was the question again?
The money freeze. Or the
Thank
freeze
you.
exercise. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, it's the ADD in me.
Yeah.
No. So the spending freeze exercise was actually a really good exercise created. I'm not sure which. I think it was a MAPS coach that created it. So basically, what it does is pull 90 days of your credit card statements, bank statements, personal and or business. And what you do, it's a highlighter exercise. So each highlighter represents something within your home. Like, for example, one highlighter would be your living. The next highlighter would be your food and entertainment. The next highlighter color would be groceries. The next highlighter color would be, automobiles. Like, you really just start to chunk that down. And the first step to change, Manda, is becoming aware. And this is only the game of awareness.
Yeah.
And I'll give you 3 examples that just happened recently just by becoming aware. One person actually realized, just by doing this quick exercise, they realized that they were spending $450 a month at Starbucks. That $5 here, that $10 there. They didn't realize that. So that changed. The second client that did this, or agent that did this, they found that somebody had gotten their credit card number and was going out and having dinner on the client to the tune of $100 to $150 a month. And that had happened for the last 10 months to a year. And then the last one that we just found that did this exercise was realizing they were seeing Amazon show up on their credit card statements, and it was fraud. And so they had gone back months and realized these Amazon bills were hitting, and they just thought maybe it was their kids or what have you. Come to find out, it was actually fraud. So just in that exercise, it flushed out some fraud and some awareness of what people are spending or not spending. It's an amazing exercise, and it's very simple.
Okay, so 40, 30, 30. What is that?
That is a great model that Gary Keller gave us. It's 30% cost of sale, 30% expenses, and 40% profit.
Okay. And why do you think people have a hard? So if the ideal profit number is 40%, right? And we know some might be greater,
Yep.
and some may expect a little less or accept a little less. Let me say that, because there's a strategy behind that why.
Right.
What do you think is the one thing that usually one or two things that get in the way of them hitting that 40%?
Well, first off, they don't track it. I think that's the biggest one. Get a P&L, get somebody that understands it and helps you. Agents, I see that they want to try to do it through QuickBooks or Quicken. Hire a professional. Your hourly rate is way more than what a third party like our company could help with the agent. So hire a professional on that. I see a lot, 98% of the agents do not track their cost of sale. They don't understand what it is, and it's literally the biggest portion of their profit and loss. So that's the biggest one that I see.
And for those that are listening, cost of sale might be an outbound referral that you're paying someone. It's usually the cost that you pay to your company. At Keller Williams, we have a cap. Sometimes other companies do not. And then the third one might be a team member.
Yeah, there's actually a fourth, a royalty, right? Or whatever. Yeah, so there's
franchise fee.
And those are pretty much the 4, Amanda,
Yep.
is those 4. So let's just repeat that. It's a team member split that you pay out. It may be a referral fee that you pay out of 25 or 30 or whatever that looks like. It's the company royalty and cap through that. I have seen some anomalies like concessions, paying for a mailbox to make sure it closes, or that microwave that doesn't work. The concession, then I've seen E&O insurance show up on, and then I've seen ISA, like if they get bonused. The general rule of thumb is that cost does not happen unless that sale does. That's the general rule of thumb. Now I've seen what about staging, or what about photography? Well, you don't really have to pay that. That sale is going to happen or not, whether you pay for that or not. So the general rule of thumb of that. Now, the problem with that is it's the hardest thing to track. And at Keller Williams, we have a thing called a DA, which is a disbursement authorization. And we get a detailed DA of that on every commission check. Well, and I did it for years. I'm guilty of it too. It just goes in the trash or it just goes away. That is where all the cost of sale comes out of. The problem with that is it does not get recorded in the P&L, so then you can't track that. Now, why is that important? Let me just give you an example. Are we okay on time?
Yep, we're
okay,
good.
awesome. So let's just say, for example, most bookkeeping or most profit and losses that I see, let's just say your average commission check is $10,000 in this case. And whatever the splits, it doesn't really matter. And let's say the check that you get at the end of the day that you make a deposit into your bank account is $7,000.
Correct.
Most people track just the $7,000. They miss out on the $3,000.
Right.
Now, why is that important? Because the $10,000 is not recorded into the GCI of the P&L. The $3,000 is not being recorded of the cost of sale, and only the $7,000 is recorded. Now, every model that we have, everything that we 30, 30, and 40, is all wrapped around that GCI number. In this case, it's $10,000. And people say, and I was just talking to an OP the other day, and they're like, we have an account where our accountant does the P&L. We have a P&L. I said, great. Does your accountant pull the DAs from every check and implements that into your P&L? And he said, no. Well, you have an accountant P&L. You don't have a business P&L. And Amanda, I don't care if you sell real estate. I don't care if you sell widgets. I don't care if you sell T-shirts. Everybody has a cost of sale.
Yeah.
And most agents are not tracking that. So that's the biggest one. And then the other one I see is when they're not tracking the cost of sale, they usually cut in areas that they shouldn't, like lead gen, or maybe leverage. They may lay off people. So when they're not seeing the bottom line or the profit that's hitting their account, the first thing that they go to is expenditures. And if they're looking at people as an expense, they're immediately putting a lid on their business. Those people are investments. Lead gen is an investment. And so if they're not tracking their cost of sale, they go cut the things that really help their business, and they're essentially choking their business and potentially going out of business.
And we know that like the MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent book by Gary Keller, has a chart of accounts.
Right.
And in that chart of accounts, it gives some recommended ratios on
That's right.
what they should be investing, right? And
Yep.
so if they're not tracking that whole number,
Yes.
then their ratios get thrown off and they
correct.
make unsensible cuts.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what I see.
I love that. So what advice, I believe that some of this just comes back from the beginning. It's that foundational setup,
Yeah.
commingling money,
Right.
Having separate checking accounts, putting taxes away, just very simple things like that, unfortunately, get skipped.
Yes.
And then the second thing that I find people avoid is making the investment in a bookkeeper. Admittedly, this is, my husband's third year of business. And last year, I'm like, we're going to hire a bookkeeper because this is not our strength zone. And so instead of trying to do it, knowing what our dollar per hour was worth, and frankly, it's the best investment we've ever made because now we have a monthly P&L, we have oversight of our business,
Yeah.
and the freedom that gave us at the end of the year to give our accountant.
Oh, I bet.
For the first time in years, what we felt like and how much smoother it was for the accountant. And I think a lot of us, we're recording this in April. Many people filed extensions, and that creates a lot of undue stress rather
right.
than just making the investment.
100%.
So I think it's foundationally getting your business set up from the front.
Yep.
And then watching that every single month, watching that money, as you told us in class, having that money time. Like, what's that time
Day
block
with
look
money.
like?
Go have a day with your money. Mine's every Saturday morning. Yeah.
Yep. So, is there any other advice that you want to give somebody on, what's a roadblock or a tip on how to increase their profit as we come to a close?
Yeah. I spent 2 hours talking about this. So, I think it was being recorded. So there's definitely some tips on that. I think at the end of the day, no matter where your journey is with money, lean into it and get uncomfortable. When you're uncomfortable, when you're uncomfortable, you're growing, right? And if this financial path or journey, you're uncomfortable talking about it, get around people who are comfortable that can educate you, ask questions, and just start doing that. I said in the course today, the first step to change is just becoming aware. And when you start to have a date with your money and you start to look at your credit card statements, you start to look at your bank statements, you may not know what you're looking at that point. Over time, you will start to see a trend. You will start to see habits. Now, the P&L is your rear view mirror. You're like, if you're to a point where you get a budget's like your windshield, and then you've got, down the road, it's cash flow, right? So just have a date with your money, start looking at things, and the questions will start to arrive. It just will. And if you become aware, you will start making better business decisions, and it just starts stacking from there. So
yeah, and I think why this matters more than anything is, Lad Gasparovic, our operating principal here at Keller Williams, talks about this. He had an awakening in which he discovered that he was what he calls a Henry, high earning, not rich yet. And he said that awakening, really, the realization was how much money in the compound of what he had been earning over the years, but yet the net worth needle didn't change. And so at the end of the day, and you started the class this way, why are we doing this? And we hope it's to buy back time.
Yep.
And at the same time, what are we left on? How many days are we left on this earth, and what are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
And using money as a tool, and using it to buy freedom and have options. And that's really at Keller Williams, we have a goal of 100 net worth millionaires out of KW Innovate.
That's
and it
awesome.
begins with
Great.
understanding this first, because
right.
we can't create net worth millionaires without some basic fundamentals around the models
Yep.
and around money. And then you get to go out there and have the investing conversations and the portfolio conversations. And so it begins here. So Kyle, thanks for being here with
My
us
pleasure.
today
Thank you
and
for having me.
pouring into us and then taking the time to sit down. So we appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.